Mr. President, what this amendment does is support the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, freedom of speech, to prohibit censorship of federal agencies and federal employees from speaking in scientific terms about the oceans, the weather, the atmospheres, and the climate. Now, you would think, Mr. President, that this is so common sense and so understood under our freedom of speech in our United States Constitution. But we have all read news reports at the state level, at the local level, maybe even at the federal level, that indeed some folks are trying to muzzle scientists from speaking about the science involving the oceans, the atmosphere, climate, and the weather. I have the privilege of knowing something about the space program, and when I hear people saying that they don't want NASA to get involved in climate, well, NASA builds the satellites, NASA launches the satellites, but then NOAA in the Department of Commerce operates these weather satellites. Other satellites that are taking measurements of the Earth to understand what is happening to our atmosphere, what is happening to our climate. Mr. President, when I start talking about the atmosphere, I can't help but flash back 29 and a half years ago, looking out the window of a spacecraft back at our planet and looking at the rim of the Earth and seeing the thin little film that is the atmosphere that sustains all of our life. And there's a lot about it that we don't know. There's a lot about it that we, in fact, can measure scientifically. And yet, for some reason, there is some commentary going on in America today that we want to muzzle our scientists. So, this amendment is a simple little common sense amendment that says you can't muzzle a federal agency or a federal employee telling them that they can't use their First Amendment right of freedom of speech to speak in scientific terms about the oceans, the weather, the atmosphere, and the climate. Now, can you imagine if we were going to muzzle researchers at the National Institute of Health and censor them, saying that they couldn't use medical terms like asthma, cancer? What if that was off limits? I mean, that's not even a question that we would consider. Scientists simply must have the tools and the ability to tell us what they observe without limitation on the terms that they can speak. So let's make clear that public science cannot be muzzled, that we won't support censorship, and that the taxpayers deserve an honest return on their investment.